Hi everyone, Sandman here. This video is brought to you by a donation from Andrew, and here's what he has to say. Hi Sandman, I recently took the red pill from RazorBladeKandy, and naturally discovered Barbarosa and Stardusk, and then you through YouTube suggestions as well. To be honest, I'm not sure what is hurting me more right now, my anger or my loss of purpose. I was raised in a Christian household by what I always thought were good, honest, and kind parents. My father taught me to be humble, honest, and a gentleman. My mother taught me kindness, generosity, compassion, and to hate myself. The topic I'd like you to cover is the use of self-deprecation or verbal self-hatred. I'm currently 36 years of age and have spent the last 20 years of my life battling with and trying to correct the self-loathing instilled in me. A near obsessive need to please everyone while hurting those who care for me with my own self-abuse. My identity has always been what I am to others. Every time I've tried to climb the ladder of pride, I've been pulled down by the reminder from my father, beware of hubris. So I became an omega out of necessity and trained my mind instead. But I've always fantasized about being the hero and gaining the unconditional love of a woman. Being the knight in shining armor, saving the damsel in distress, and finally being able to stand up straight with pride as a male provider. I've been in 3 two-year relationships, playing the roles of sweet nice guy, confident older guy, and Captain Save-a-hoe. All 3 ended because of infidelity and or drug relapses. I am the 4th of 5 children, all 2 years apart except my younger sister who's 8 years younger than me. My eldest sister has been married and divorced 3 times, has 2 kids with 2 different men, one of whom she's actually not married to. Next is my brother who's antisocial, terrified of females, a drug addict, and always doing the bare minimum in life. He lives in my parents' summer home and relapses every time that my parents visit him. My other older sister was my best friend throughout my younger life. I learned a lot of female behavior from her, and I think that subconsciously she gave me some small red pills. However, I wasn't able to say no to her, and we went through many long and terrible drug addictions together. I was her resource provider and protector. I did bad things, attempted suicide, did more bad things, and ended up in prison for 4 years, which ended up saving my life. But she killed herself shortly after I was incarcerated, another victim of the killer of 1,000 faces. I don't think I would have resisted going back to drugs if she was still around when I finally got out, so her sacrifice gave me the freedom and strength to go on. All of us are infected with what would the neighbors do syndrome, drilled into us by our parents, always too busy worrying about other people and what they want from us instead of what we thought and we needed ourselves. Seeing my life with red pill eyes, I now understand that my father has been an enabling mangina, making excuses for my mother's constant verbal abuse, because she suffers from very bad rheumatoid arthritis and had a bad childhood. My mother can be very kind and sweet and supportive at times, only to instantly switch to a sarcastic, self-abusive, pessimistic person. My little sister was born when my mother was 40 years of age. I love my little sister and I hate her. She's my best friend one minute, and the next she's actually verbally cutting her own throat and making me watch. If my mother has a bachelor's in self-deprecation, then my little sister has a doctorate. You can't give her a compliment without it actually being thrown back in your face, and if you don't compliment her back, she's going to basically find a way to make you then throw it back in your face instead. When she gets upset, she becomes the most toxic person I know. I have made excuses for her because she picked the behaviors up from my mother and also suffers from bad arthritis. I still sometimes slip into self-deprecation mode when I'm feeling hopeless. I was horrible with it when I was young, and since my sister looked up to me, I think I actually am partially responsible as well. However, because of empathy, I see how much it hurts, and I've been changing that about myself for decades and have a lot of success. If I can do it, why can't she? I feel cut loose, surrounded by open water, but I have no idea which direction to go in. All of the things I thought I wanted are just a mirage of something that already exists in fantasy. It feels so strange to have a blank canvas in front of me. Everywhere I look now, I see the yoke of gynocentrism, in the books I read, in the plays I play, and in my past. It's the most amazing and terrifying thing to move into, yet it's mine and mine alone. Thank you, MGTOW. P.S. What about RazorBladeKandy? I want to thank him, but he vanished a year ago. Well, Andrew, thanks for your donation as well as your topic request. First of all, I don't know what happened to RazorBladeKandy. I believe he had some health issues, and maybe that's why he doesn't produce content anymore. I'm more interested in what happened to No Holds Barred. His videos just vanished one day, but now I want to discuss your topic and comments. First of all, self-esteem is essential for a man's success, but women are constantly beating down our self-esteem all the time with social conventions and rules. For some reason, they believe that if a man can conform to the rules, he will be successful. When I did that in my past relationship, it actually didn't make me successful. Instead, it made me a simp. Thus, we live in fear of speaking our minds and taking the action steps we want to better ourselves when in relationships, because we're told to hate ourselves and love others. Everything hinges on us abusing ourselves emotionally while lifting women onto a pedestal and worshipping them. If we don't, then we basically can't be controlled by the establishment that's found all around us. Everything to keep a man from self-actualizing, it seems. You talk about having a blank canvas and it's scary, but it should also be exciting because you're going off into uncharted territory. You're afraid of the red pill and feel empty because women and family gave us meaning. Suddenly we learn that's a lie and the meaning is stripped away, and now we find a new meaning that's basically our own and unique. That's the essence of going your own way, finding your own personal meaning in life. I'm sorry to hear about your sister's suicide, but I actually found it interesting that she fed you small little red pills from time to time. Some women are sneaky because they give us forbidden knowledge and fruit and then expect us to repay it financially or by taking care of them. Your sister was earning your respect, so she would actually get to take advantage of you. Your mother was toxic, so you probably went out seeking women just as toxic as her to have relationships with. When your toxic mother wasn't around, you hung out with your toxic bad influence drug-using sister. She was like a surrogate relationship for you during the times when you didn't have one. You'll probably also have self-loathing inside of you for a really long time because your father did it, and it becomes hardwired into you. Yes, it will take a long time to change, as you said, many decades, all because your mother emotionally abused you and your father just told you to take it. Your father was walked all over and taught you to be a pushover as well indirectly. As for your sister, she couldn't change because women feel instead of rationalize. They do what feels comfortable to them. If they feel comfortable a certain way while they're growing up, then they'll never change their behaviors and always seek out that situation that makes them feel familiar. You've hated yourself and been filled with self-loathing like most blue pill men because if you had any self-esteem, you wouldn't actually put up with the abuse that you received from a relationship. The way I see it, there are two ways for a man to have self-esteem. The first is to go his own way, accomplish his own things in life, and build his own ego through self-actualization. The second way, if he's in a relationship, is to constantly keep putting the woman that's shit-testing him in her place. He needs to tell her to shut up, and we all know that guys like Sean Connery would even smack women around in old James Bond films. I've seen guys today that keep their own self-esteem, they don't hit their women but are constantly putting them in their place. From my father, I saw him put my mother in her place from not talking down to her but instead by using money. At one point he was the sole breadwinner, so what he would actually do is put her in her place depending on how much money he was going to give her. So in the past, money, i.e. resources, and putting her verbally in her place were the ways that good men that didn't hit their women kept their self-esteem. Today you can't do that because most women work and most guys are afraid to talk back to women and put them in their place because they're afraid of actually being initiated into a divorce. So the majority of men out there hate themselves because they're powerless to prevent the insane treatment they receive from women. Men today have been stripped of our power to be in relationships. It's like choosing to work in a prison as a prison guard with no weapons and no bars to protect you from the inmates. What could possibly go wrong? So men going their own way have chosen to leave the metaphorical prison and are basically heading for the hills. Yet at the same time, women are in that prison and they need men to provide food and protection. When men lost the power in relationships and marriages, the way women controlled us was through sex and by destroying our self-esteem by emotionally blackmailing us and abusing us. The first generation of men that went through this was back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, after women's liberation, and they never saw the consequences of such female behavior before, so they were there like an experiment. But their children, Generation X and the millennials, saw what happened to our fathers when they lost their power, money, jobs, and homes, so we learn from their mistakes. So the following generation, our generation, there are less male patsies to go around and take advantage of. As men, we learn what's the point in building your self-esteem to only have it destroyed by the woman you get married to. The first time I loved a woman in a long-term relationship, she tried to get me to give up my sovereignty and live my life supposedly to make her happy when I was in my mid-20s. But I had actual self-esteem, and the moment I tried to live without my ego and pretended to hate myself enough to provide for her, I started getting anxiety, tension, headaches, stomach upset, and elevated blood pressure. I couldn't take the torture of being with someone that demanded I surrender who I was for her. I had self-esteem, and there was no way that my ego was going to let me destroy it. I, unlike you, Andrew, was not taught to be Captain Save-a-hoe, and when I behaved in such a way, I became resentful. I was taught that a relationship between a man and a woman needs to be a partnership where the two sides work together. For the most part, other than the occasional selfish triad from my mother, my parents always seemed to work together. I tried being with women where I pulled most of the weight in the relationship like a mule and enjoyed few of the rewards of doing so, and I couldn't do it. I also couldn't deal with the woman's verbal abuse, which also attacks my ego. To all the men out there listening that are in relationships, ask yourself, is the constant verbal abuse and shaming language worth the sex on a regular basis? You live in fear because she can leave you at any moment, and as a result, you hate yourself. You have no authority, so you cease looking at yourself as a human. You're just like a yes-dear monster with the sole aim in life to live by the code of a happy wife, happy life. Women don't have any expressions with the two words, happy husband, in them now, do they? Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today. I have some bad news I wanted to share about Rudy, the oldest man I know, going his own way. He passed away recently in his 90s, and he didn't feel much pain as he was actually well medicated. When his friends would die one after another, he would often get invited to their funerals. He wasn't very comfortable around dead bodies, so he would always say, well, I'm not going to go to so-and-so's funeral because they won't be courteous enough to return the favor when it's my turn. He of course was making light of death and telling everyone a cheesy joke to lighten the mood. Well, at least he lived his life without having to deal with the horrors of a modern marriage. Anyways, thanks again Andrew for your donation as well as your topic. Don't forget to smash the like button and check out the MGTOW mystery link. As for everyone else out there, please follow me on Twitter or like me on Facebook to get tomorrow's video today. Thanks for taking your daily dose of red pills. And remember, a red pill a day keeps the fear and loathing away. So enjoy the rest of your day, and cheers.